All right, and we're live. Welcome to those tuning in on Zoom. Welcome to those tuning in live on YouTube. We're about to get started here. We're about to get started here with the live
All right, and we're
training.
live. Welcome to those tuning in on Zoom. Welcome to those tuning in live on YouTube. We're about to get started.
All right, we're getting started here with the live training for sales leaders on emotional intelligence as a leadership skill in an AI-driven world. And so I'm excited to do this. This is my first time doing this virtually. Usually I go into organizations and I talk to sales teams and we have conversations about the link between mental health and emotional intelligence. And that's super important specifically for sales leaders because with sales, if you're a sales leader, if you're a sales executive, you are in one of the highest rejection, highest pressure, highest performance expectation jobs that exist. Your entire job is measured in numbers every single quarter. You're expected to show up and be confident even when you're not. You're in a position where losing and getting rejected is a part of your everyday job. And with that, that is an extremely emotional weight to carry every single day. And it can lead to burnout if you don't have a safe space to carry that. And so we'll talk a little bit about that today. But first, what we're going to do here, we're going to do a giveaway. We're going to do a giveaway just for showing up, just for showing your, just for making this a part of your day. We're giving away what's called an affirmation bracelet. And so now these bracelets, I wear one every single day. You can see it here. But these bracelets, they are basically physical reminders for you to execute with excellence. They're reminders to always be proud of your growth. They're a reminder that you're always one connection away. And now the story behind these bracelets is really interesting. I started manufacturing these bracelets while I was a college student. I was a college student, an entrepreneurship major, and I wanted to publish my first book. I wanted to publish my first book, and I didn't have the money to do so. And at this time, I knew about drop shipping. I knew about e-commerce, and so I figured, okay, how can I use this e-commerce skill to sell something that can give me enough money to publish my first book? And so I created these bracelets, and this was 2017, I believe. And now, 2026, the bracelets have gone from just a little project to fund a book. They've grown into an entire global brand to where now people all around the world have these bracelets and wear them every single day as a reminder of the affirmation that sticks closely with them. And so I'm giving one away right now. If you're watching this, take a screenshot. Take a screenshot of of this recording. Take a screenshot of this Zoom call. Post it to your LinkedIn and basically say, "Hey, I'm on Christian's Live right now, learning about emotional intelligence for sales leaders." That's all you have to do, and then I'll pick one of you and I'll send you a bracelet. I'll let you choose which affirmation and which color bracelet you want, and I'll send it right to you. And if you're watching later, all you have to do is again take a picture of this video, post it to your social media, say that you joined in, that you tuned in live, and then you can also get a chance to receive this. But this is just a giveaway, just to say thank you for giving me your time. And now we're going to get into the presentation. The title of this is called Own Your Inner World, Elevate Your Outer Performance. Own your inner world, elevate your outer performance. Because I've learned something. I've learned that your outer performance is always a direct reflection of your inner world. So the more clear you are internally, the more clear you will be externally, right? And that's how that works. And so what we're going to do is first start with a question, right? I want you to sit with this. I want you to meditate on this question. The question is, when was the last time you paused long enough to notice how you're actually doing, right? When was the last time you paused long enough to notice how you're actually doing? And I'm not talking about the normal, oh, I'm fine, I'm good. That's just so normal in our culture today. But when was the last time you actually sat with yourself to see what was really there? And for most people, the question to the answer to this question is, oh, it's been a while. I see somebody in the chat saying, oh, it's been a little while. I don't know when the last time is. And unfortunately, that is way too common in our culture today, especially in the US. Someone said last week, someone said yesterday, okay. But we can all do better, right? So repeat after me. You don't have to say it out loud because you're on mute. If you're on the Zoom call, you're on mute. But repeat after me. Say, I, put it in the chat. Say, I, in the chat, am going to do better. There we go. I am going to do better. And that's true. We can always do better. We can always make sure that we are taking moments every single day to just sit and pause and see what's really there. And so today on this call, I want to be very, very clear on what this is and what this isn't. So this isn't just a lecture about emotional intelligence and AI, even though the title of this training is Emotional Intelligence for Leaders in the AI-driven World. It's more than that, right? The next 60 minutes, well, less than that now, you're going to do three things. The first is you're going to understand the problem that exists in the workforce today because of a lack of emotional intelligence. And two, you're going to understand why it exists and how it shows up in your life personally. And third, you're going to leave with a framework and a practice to help you work towards implementing emotional clarity every single day. And it's something lightweight, tangible, usable. It'll be something that can provide you value immediately. And you're going to walk away feeling more clear, more in tuned, and more empowered. All right. And I see someone saying need that for their team as well. Yes, if you're ready to continue, type ready. Ready on the Zoom. Say you're ready, even if you're watching later on YouTube or Facebook or anywhere, just type ready in the chat just as an affirmation to yourself that, hey, I'm ready to learn this information. I'm ready to become more emotionally clear. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay. I see some readies in the chat. That's amazing. So ready. All right, so let me just start by just telling you a little bit about myself. So for me, if you're watching this right now, you may already know me, or I may be a complete stranger to you. But if I am a stranger to you, I'm going to share this information with you. So the last 4 years, I spent um, abroad. I spent time in Paris, where I started a company focused on mental health and wellness access. During this time, I also published a book called The Positive Affirmation Guide. I hosted several events abroad, introducing people to new ways to invest in their mental health. And during the Olympics in Paris in 2024, I organized a mental health conference in Paris. And the last 4 years really just built me up to understand what I am about to share with you all today. And it's going to be three lessons. The first lesson is that emotional intelligence and mental health are deeply connected. Emotional intelligence and mental health are deeply connected. What I've learned is that emotional intelligence is the skill, but then mental wellness is the outcome. And so, more practically, it looks like this. Emotional intelligence is your capacity to notice, to name, and to navigate your emotional stress, and also to understand the emotional states of the people around you, right? But then mental health and mental wellness is what happens over time when you either practice these skills or you don't. So they're not two things that run in parallel. They actually are connected. Emotional intelligence produces mental wellness. And every major study that you find on this topic, you'll see this one report. You will see that people with higher emotional intelligence report significantly lower levels of anxiety, depression, and burnout, right? Higher emotional intelligence equals lower levels of anxiety, depression, and burnout. And today we're going to dive deep into what burnout means because burnout is something that is very prevalent in the workforce, but especially with salespeople. Sales is one of the most high turnover positions in the workforce that exists. So we're going to talk about that. But the second lesson that I learned from my time in Paris is that transparency is the fastest path to trust, right? Or another way to say it is transparency builds trust. And this is true with friends and also with strangers. And I learned this from my time abroad doing events and also hosting workshops in Paris. I learned that when you place people in a room together and you create a safe space for them to share, there's something magical that happens. People feel seen, people feel empowered, and people realize that they're not alone. And so I want something magical to happen here today too, whether you're on the Zoom or whether you're watching live on YouTube or on Facebook. I want you to take a moment and really be transparent with yourself. And just to affirm that, I want to affirm to you that this is a safe space. This is a safe space. And what's yours to take, I want you to take it. What belongs to someone else, leave it. All right, very clear. And now the third lesson that I learned from my time abroad, whether I was in Paris, Amsterdam, Italy, Atlanta, anywhere else, I realized that globally, for the most part, everybody wants the same thing. They want peace. They want daily peace. And as a part of the workshops that I do with organizations, we do surveys to understand more about where people are in their personal lives and their professional lives. And one of the questions that we ask is, what are you seeking emotionally more than anything else? What are you seeking more than anything else? And by far, the answer that we receive most is peace. And now that word peace, it can have several different meanings. Just to get some interaction here, whether you're on Zoom or if you're watching it on YouTube, when you hear the word peace, what comes to mind? You can put it in the chat or in the comments. What comes to mind when you hear the word peace? Okay, no stress. What else? Zen, no stress, Zen. Awesome. Freedom. I love that freedom. Okay. That's great. Awesome. So these are all accurate, but this word peace, I want to give you a little bit of history on the word peace. So the word peace, it's a word that originates from the Anglo-French word, interesting, French word, paix, and the old French word paix, meaning reconciliation, silence, or agreement. But the English word peace came into use as a way of personal greetings around the 1300s. And the English word came from a translation of the Hebrew word shalom, meaning to be complete or made whole. And although peace is the translation, it's an incomplete one because this word shalom, this Hebrew word, it has multiple other meanings in addition to peace that include justice, good health, safety, well-being, prosperity, equity, security, good fortune, all these different things. And so when people say they're seeking peace, it doesn't just mean the absence of wars. It means overall well-being. And when people lack peace, it leads to stress, chronic illness, and burnout. And now this burnout thing, I mentioned it earlier when we first started, but burnout is a $300 billion crisis. $300 billion are lost every year to workplace stress and burnout. And here in the US, 77% of workers experience burnout symptoms. And so when I hear this and I see these stats, my mind instantly goes to solutions, right? How can we someone said in the chat we need reparations for burnout. Right. So my mind instantly goes to solutions. How can we provide solutions for this burnout thing? And during my time abroad, I came up with these five pillars of mental well-being. And everything that I do with Daily Peace, every workshop that I host, every product that I build even is rooted in these five pillars. And I believe that once an individual has all of these five pillars, they find themselves at a place of mental well-being, but also at a place of peace. And now this first pillar is awareness. And awareness just means that you are able to see yourself and see the world clearly. Alignment is the second pillar. Alignment means that you're able to connect your personal values and your professional values, and you see synergy there. This third pillar is agency. And agency means that you have the power, you have the freedom to make decisions, to own your projects, and you have no remorse about it. And the fourth pillar is belonging. This belonging pillar is where you start to develop trust with others. You start to develop community with those around you. And the fifth pillar is sustainability. That's where you feel confident that you have the community, you have the tools, and you have the resources to maintain well-being for a long term. And so for my salespeople that are watching this, I want to give you a quote and give you something to think about here. Your pipeline isn't what's draining you. It's everything that you're not saying about it. And to make this more global, it's not your to-do list that's draining you. It's everything that you're not saying about it. And with that, what that really means is that there's a misconception that burnout means, okay, hey, I just have too much work. My workload is too heavy. I don't have enough time. Some of that may be true, but I love this equation for burnout, which is burnout equals unprocessed emotion plus misaligned behavior, right? Burnout equals unprocessed emotion plus misaligned behavior. And now this is where the emotional intelligence piece comes into play because the lack of emotional intelligence means that you're unable to process your emotions. And when you're unable to process your emotions, sometimes that can lead to lashing out. That can lead to you not saying what you feel or what you should say. And that can lead you to feeling like you no longer know who you are or you no longer have your place within your workplace or within your job. And so I want to talk about what's called the avoidance loop. And so this loop is something that I created and it represents what happens, what it looks like for the unprocessed emotions and the misaligned behaviors to be at work here. And so we're going to start by just looking at a couple. So the step one of this avoidance loop, step one happens when something uncomfortable arises. So that could be a uncomfortable email or passive aggressive email that you got from a coworker. It could be that you gave an idea during a team meeting and it got shot down. It could mean that you wanted to, take the weekend off and your boss said no, right? But something uncomfortable happens, and something uncomfortable happens all the time, right? But then that step two piece, that step two, instead of processing what you feel, what arises from the uncomfortable moment, you avoid it instead of confronting it and processing it, you avoid it. And this is where the most amount of work is to be done, which we'll talk about later. But after that step two, then goes to step three. You suppress those emotions, and that suppression costs energy. Studies show that when unprocessed stress, it leads to a higher heart rate. It leads to feeling more anxious. It leads to depression. It leads to all these things happening in your body when you're unable to process the emotion that you feel, or you just choose not to. And then at step four, the emotions accumulate and residue builds up. When that residue builds up, step five happens. You start to lose meaning. And just from talking with individuals who have experienced burnout, I talked to many people in the healthcare space that experience burnout, nurses, doctors, and they tell me that before they even burn out to the point of quitting their job, they experience this lack of empathy. They just stop caring. They stop caring about the patients that they're working with. They stop caring about their coworkers, and they stop caring about their job. And that is a sign that burnout is close by. And then step six. Step six is peace becomes impossible because now you have this huge backlog of unprocessed emotions. You have you have burnout starting to creep in, and you're unable to feel peace. And then it goes back to step one, something else uncomfortable happens, and then you find yourself in what's called the avoidance loop. And here the picture is just again the entire diagram. You can take a screenshot if you want, just to see like, hey, am I somewhere on this avoidance loop? My coworkers need this. Love that. And so now we talked about burnout, but again, solution minded. So emotional clarity combats burnout. And emotional clarity is a performance multiplier. And basically, what that means is when you are clear emotionally, you make better decisions. When you are clear emotionally, you positively impact those around you. And when those around you are positively impacted, it creates a workforce and environment of people that feel this energy of clarity. And that eventually affects the entire company. And so not only is emotional clarity a performance multiplier, but emotional clarity, emotional awareness is also a competitive advantage. Because if you put two people side by side and you just watch them for a day and how they work, nine times out of 10, the person who is more emotionally aware, emotionally clear, they will perform better than a person that is not. And so having emotional clarity, having emotional awareness, it is how you can have an advantage over your competitors, especially in sales. And so there's this thing that I do when I'm going into organizations and we're doing these type of workshops. And this is called an identity mapping exercise. And we're not going to do it here, but if you want to inquire about doing one of these for your teams, you can go to dailypeace .ai/creative labs and um, you'll see the link. And I'll just go ahead and put the link in the chat too here on Zoom, and I'll put it there on YouTube as well. Creative Labs. All right, there it is. And so one thing that we do these identity mapping exercises, and it basically involves taking about 5 minutes to answer these questions. First, who do I think I am? So that involves thinking about your role, thinking about your strengths, your weaknesses, how you see yourself on a good day. The second column is how do others view you, right? So what are your colleagues? What do they think about you? What do they feel when they're around you? What feedback have you gotten from your employees? And this third column, which is the most important one, is who are you under pressure? When stress hits, what happens? Do you go quiet? Do you get aggressive? Do you start people pleasing? Do you just withdraw completely? What happens? And these are just some of the adjectives that I give to people just to help them kind of get the ball rolling. And again, once we do this as an in-person workshop, it really has a heavy impact, especially doing it in a group. But since this is just a virtual, we're not going to do it. What I want to teach you here is what's called the reactive identity. And your reactive identity is the version of yourself when you become overwhelmed or under pressure. In case you haven't noticed, the version of yourself when you're overwhelmed or under pressure is not the same version of yourself. That's just when that shows up when you're happy or when you're feeling peaceful. And this is why when you feel pressure, when you feel stressed, many people they tend to react instead of respond. And reacting looks like uh, a response that's emotionally driven, that's more aggressive, it fuels disagreement. And although it may feel good in the moment, it ultimately weakens you versus a response. A response is well thought out, it's calm, it centers around resolution, and it empowers you. And so that small gap in between reaction and response, that is where emotional clarity sits. And so the next thing I want to cover here with the time that we have left is why unresolved stress affects your decision making. And I talked a little bit about this already, but I want to just give you the neuroscience behind this. But first, let me ask you a question. Have you ever responded to a situation and then minutes later, hours later, days later, you regretted it? You said, dang, why did I answer that way? Why did I respond that way? Oh, I should have said this instead. Has that ever happened to anybody besides me? Yep. Awesome. And this is why that happens. The neuroscience behind this is that our brains have two different modes. We have the thinking brain and we have the survival brain. So our thinking brain, that's our prefrontal cortex, and that's where we think about strategy. That's where we have clear decision making. That's where we feel empathy. We are able to see other people's perspective. In our prefrontal cortex, that's where the leader within us lives. But then you have your amygdala. You have your survival brain, and that's your threat and response part of your brain. So that's when you start to just react defensively. That's the part of your brain that detects threats. That's also the fight or flight part of your brain. And what happens here is stress. Stress sends you here. It's okay. But what if there was a solution for this, right? What if we had a framework that allowed us to pause and really understand what we're experiencing so that we can make a better decision moving forward? What if? And luckily that exists. And it's called the Name It, Normalize It, Navigate It framework. And this is a framework that's rooted in ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. And it involves three different steps. First, you name it. So you name exactly what you feel when you're feeling something. You put words to it. You say, I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling disoriented. I'm feeling alone. You name whatever that emotion is, and that's the identification part. That's the awareness piece if we're thinking about the pillars that I talked about earlier. And then you have the normalize it stage. Normalizing it means that you understand why. You understand that the version of you that shows up under pressure or the emotions that you tend to feel when you're under stress, they came from somewhere. Maybe at some point they protected you. At some point they made you feel safe. They made sense. But with this normalize, you just realize that, hey, these emotions that I feel, they are rooted in something. And this third step is navigate it. Navigating it is asking yourself, what do I actually need right now? And it's not what you think you should need, it's what you actually need. And that's the question that creates a choice. That's the question that creates freedom. And that's where peace lives. So this process, name it, normalize it, navigate it, this is the framework that exists to help you between that reaction and response phase. And so this is the third and final thing that we'll talk about during this training. It's how to build emotional clarity under pressure, right? How to build emotional clarity under pressure. And here's the avoidance loop again. This is what happens when you don't have that emotional clarity under pressure. But for me, I want to talk about something that happened to me that helped me to understand how to develop a solution for this problem. I realized that when leaders, and this is my Leading Well podcast. So I started this podcast as a way to interview people leaders, mainly chief human resource officers, even some CEOs, different people professionals who are responsible for well-being in the workplace. And I would ask them like, "Hey, what are you seeing when it comes to burnout? What are you seeing when it comes to individuals unable to process their emotions, individuals needing to take sick days? Like, what are you seeing?" And I kept hearing the same thing. They say, we don't have these daily practices for people to engage in to just help them have these short moments of peace. I would hear things like, we don't have real-time data. We do surveys once a year, but that's about it. I heard things like, by the time someone burns out, it's too late. They've already quit mentally. They've already lost their empathy, and it's harder to get them back to feeling empowered. And so I knew by having these conversations that people needed, teams needed something that they can do daily that's not overwhelming, something that's fast, something that's engaging, and something that's actually useful with data to support it. And so that's when I came back to Atlanta and just everything came full circle. And I started building this platform called Daily Peace. And I started building this platform really while I was still living in Paris. And living there is one thing that I kept noticing. I kept noticing that the lines to the museums were around the corner every single weekend. And there was a reason. There was a reason why every weekend the lines to museums looked like this. And so I started asking myself, what is it about art? What is it about visual experiences that always pulls people back? And here's what research actually shows. Research says that when you see something that connects to what you're feeling, your brain processes it more and differently than words. And more specifically, this is from a study from Stanford. They said that visual stimuli, it engages the emotional centers of the brain faster and more directly than language does. Because it hits you fast. It's a form of escapism too, but it hits you fast, and your defenses don't have time to edit or make note of what's going on. Once you see something, you actually feel it, instantly feel it emotionally, and that's what happens when you look at something that reflects your inner state back to you. You're able to see your emotions, which helps you understand your emotions better. And so this platform, this tool that I'm going to introduce you to right now, Daily Peace, it lives at the intersection of that. It lives at the intersection of visual reflection and healthy therapeutic frameworks as a daily check-in. And it ultimately becomes a mirror because most of us don't stop long enough to even look in one. And so I want to talk to you about what this process looks like really quickly, and then I'll give you a link to where you can do it yourself. And so look, this is what it is. Step one of the process is you answer a few questions like, how are you feeling? What's your energy level? How's your mental clarity? And then you go into a process of visualizing your emotions. You answer a question. If you could visualize your emotions right now, what would they look like? Describe the colors, shapes, scenery, or feeling. And then you type that in there. And then what happens is we created this this logic, this AI logic that associates different symbols, different feelings, with different pictures, different images. And so, based on how you're feeling, based on your mental clarity, based on your visualization, a daily piece will give you two different images for you to choose from, and it'll allow you to choose which one most resonates with you. And after you do that, you'll get what's called your daily piece portrait, which includes a word of the day. It includes an affirmation of the day, a quote of the day. It gives you some research insight based on what you're feeling. And it gives you many other things. But the goal of it is that you have some actual data, some actual insights personalized to you that help you to improve your mental well-being during that day, during that time. And so, what I want you to do now, if you're here, go to dailypeace.ai/sales leaders. And so I'm going to put that in the chat here. And I'm going to also put it in the chat on the YouTube live, dailypeace.ai/slash sales leaders. So it's in the chat on YouTube. And then I'm going to go here to, I'm in the chat on, it's in the chat on Zoom. And then I'm going to come here to YouTube and put it in the chat here. Yep, yep. And so I want you to go through this process. Go through a quick check-in for yourself. And then after you go through a check-in, here we go. After you go through the check-in, okay, the link is now on YouTube Live too. So go through the check-in and see what it brings up for you. And if you want, screenshot the image that is generated for you and post it on your LinkedIn, post it on your Instagram, post it on whatever social platform that you're on. But this will be a visual reflection of your inner world. A visual reflection of your inner world. And so I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. And the idea is that this is what's called a micro intervention. And with the micro intervention, it's a way for you to pause. It's a way for you to do something positive for your mental well-being without spending an hour or 30 minutes doing it. It's designed so you can just take a step outside while you're at work, do this for 5 minutes, and go back into your workspace feeling more clear emotionally. All right, I'm gonna stop talking and let you all do it. All right, so if you're able to go through this process, again, screenshot it, post it, or just send it to me. I would love to see what comes up for you. And then at the end of this process, you will see an opportunity. It takes some time. I got you. Okay, let me give you a couple more minutes. So while you're doing that, let's give me some vibes back. Right, let me know in the chat when you finish. Seeing that some people are done. And so now this process, this daily peace reflection, this is something that hundreds of people are already using every single day. And the goal with this is to get it in as many people's hands as possible, but really people that are experiencing high stress in their work, that have high pressure, that have a performance-based job to where they're afraid that if they don't show up and do and perform well or show up and hit certain numbers, they could be laid off, right? Being laid off is something that's real for so many people. And this tool, this daily peace tool, is designed to give you that emotional clarity to realize, like, hey, you are more than your job. Like, hey, you are more than just a resource or more than just a number. Like, you are a human being. Human beings have emotions. Human beings have feelings. And our feelings are a real-time anchor to help us realize where we are and the distance between where we are and where we're going. And I see somebody in the chat posted theirs fire and their words breakthrough. That's super dope. That's super dope. And so I want to give you a chance to join this daily peace movement. And I'll show you what that looks like. And so if you can see my screen now, these are different plans for daily peace. So you're able to use daily peace for free and get up to 3 check-ins a week, but it's gonna be limited. You get limited feedback on your portrait. You get limited options of different photos that you can use, and it'll be harder to save your reflection history. But then with that pro membership, it's only 197 for the year, which is less, it's about 50 cents per day, right? And I have a question for you. If all this did was save you one day of feeling depressed or feeling emotionally bound, would 200 for the year be worth it? Or if all this did was allow you to show up more present for a conversation with a loved one or a family member, if that's all it did, would it be worth it? Without question. Okay, last one. If all this did was allow you to show up more confident at your workplace every day, even half of the week, would it be worth around $200 for the year? Yeah, without question. For sure. Awesome. Well, the cool thing is if you're part of this Zoom or if you're part of the live, you have an opportunity to get a discounted price. Instead of paying 197 for the year, you pay $150 for the year for Pro Access, which gives you unlimited check-ins every week. It gives you full reflection history. It gives you all of our emotional insights. It gives you completely personalized micro actions and micro practices for you to take every single day. You get to have access to streak tracking to where you can see how long you can keep a streak. Gives you weekly reviews and it gives you priority support if you have any issues. All of this not for 197, but for 150 if you're on this call today. And so what you'll do is once you go to that link, the link here, dailypeace.ai/sales leaders, you go through the entire check-in. And after, once you get your daily peace portrait, you press continue and you'll get a chance to have that discounted price of $150 for the year, and you'll join our Daily Peace community. And we hope that you stay on with us for life. But here it is, dailypeace.ai/sales leaders. So if you have anyone in your organization, anyone of your friends that needs this resource, anyone in your family that needs this resource, send this to them and tell them, hey, I just joined this really cool workshop where I learned about emotional intelligence. I learned about a cool way to use AI for my emotional well-being. I learned about mental health. I learned about how to combat burnout. And this was a resource that was given, and I want you to check it out. That's all you have to do. And so we're going to end with that. And again, there will be a giveaway. There will be one person getting a giveaway reward, which is one of these affirmation bracelets designed in Paris. One of five affirmations: execute with excellence, proud of the growth, one connection away. And so, along with this dailypeace.ai membership, you may get a chance to win also an affirmation bracelet. And again, these are just additional resources for you to really take control of your mental health and well-being. Because once you own your inner world, you elevate your outer performance. Own your inner world, elevate your outer performance. And before we go here, I'll give a few minutes for any questions. Any questions in the chat? Any questions in the chat, and I'll also go through this myself. And so you'll see exactly how it goes. Excited, energy level high, clear. What's weighing on you today? Um, okay. And so the image creation takes about 60 seconds. Sometimes it takes less, sometimes it takes a little more, but that's where the AI just generates all of your insights, all of your information, and then it gives you a personalized image directly for you. And we added this feature, this breathe while you wait feature, to where you can do a box breathing exercise. You breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, and then you rest for 4 seconds. It's fire. So this is what came up for me. I like this one. Inspired. Makes me feel inspired. It'll come to mind when I see this. Building a project. I'm like catching my attention most. I'm determined. So happy. Okay. Craftsmanship. Love that. My word of the day. And these are different insights that it gives you: the affirmation, your progress, micro actions, the micro practice, gives you a gentle reframe that's rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah, craftsmanship is a great word for sure. Gives you an inspirational quote: happiness is not the mere possession of money, it lies in the joy of achievement and the thrill of creative effort. Fire. Awesome. And then you can email, you can download, you can share. Yeah. And that is the process. Does it save your artwork? You would have to save it yourself, or you have to make an account. So I already have an account here, so it's not showing it for me. But you can download it here. You can share it, and you can also email it to yourself. And then once you have an account, it'll be saved. And then once you have the pro account, you'll be able to keep up with your streaks. You'll be able to um, also see all of the words you ever created. And it's basically like keeping a physical, well, not even physical, but a digital journal of your well-being. And that's one of the values of having a membership to Daily Peace. Awesome. And so at any time, feel free to reach out if you have any questions, reach out if you need any links. And again, share this dailypeace.ai. If you want people to have access um to the discount that I'm offering today, go to dailypeace.ai/sales leaders. Dailypeace.ai/sales leaders. But thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your cooperation. Thanks for being involved in the chat as well. And I'll see you all on the next training, on the next workshop. But until then, be well. And again, share dailypeace.ai with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers. Last thing I will share is that if you go to dailypeace.ai and again the creative labs, this is where our team will come into your office. We'll do an in-person workshop. It's a full well-being workshop, creative experience, and a team dialogue. And this is how it works. We come in, we open up with teaching about the 5 pillars of mental well-being. We allow people to check in and and process how they're feeling in the moment. We allow people to do a short reflection journaling. We allow for them to create their AI art, and then we have a group. We have private reflection, and then we have group dialogue. We allow for the art to lead group conversations, and it really feels like I hate saying this, but it's a group therapeutic type of feel. And again, this transparency builds trust, and this really shows within the workplace. And so if you want to bring Daily Peace to your workplace, come to dailypeace.ai, click Creative Labs, and then you can book a creative lab, and that's just booking a call with our team. Booking a call with our team to talk about how and when we can show up for your team. And if you book a call within the next 2 weeks and book a creative lab in the month of June, we'll also give you a special reward, which I'll talk to you more personally about on the call when you book. But there it is. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you all on the next one.